You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 8th meeting of the Michigan City Tree Board. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right, we're going to get started here. Welcome to the first meeting of the Tree Board in 2025. And I'll call the meeting to order. I'm Jim Melowitz, President. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Has everybody received the agenda?
I was going to ask, sometimes we've done this to adjust it where we put public comment up earlier so people don't have to wait for the whole meeting. We can do that in case people want to speak before we go through everything.
Is there a particular reason to do that today?
No, I mean, you guys want to sit through
We
the
have
whole?
public here. Would you like to sit through the meeting, or would you like to make?
Is it a 3-hour meeting or a 5 hour?
It'll be about an hour.
Let's hope not. Oh, it's been an hour for a while.
It's entirely up to you guys.
Okay.
About an
If
hour.
you'd like, we'd love you to join us, so we could keep it at the end.
We'll just keep it.
I think
Okay.
we'll just keep it at the end, if that's okay.
That's what expected.
Motion to approve the agenda, anybody?
So moved. Second.
Second, all in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
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 All right, we have an agenda. Approval of minutes. The minutes have been circulated for the last meeting, December 4th, 24.
I have a question, and I had an adjustment.
Okay,
So, and it might be about the same thing.
Okay.
This is about the treasurer's report. We have $710.19 in a donation fund.
So this is on item number 4, Treasurer's Report in the minutes.
okay.
I don't know, I personally don't know where that number came from. I think Mary Ellen knows more about it, but even if we know where it came from, I'm not sure it's accurate. We have some questions about our donation fund, and we're gonna have another meeting with Mary Lynn Moss.
Yeah, we put out to have another meeting with Mary Lynn, specifically on that question and the general fund in general.
Well, the budget performance report that we were given for this meeting for the period of January 1st, 24 through December 31st, 24 does not show $710.
Right, and these
Right.
minutes are reflecting the prior meeting, the December meeting.
Okay,
But they actually reflect our report from our previous meeting with the comptroller. But the papers we looked at that time was not the budget performance report, which is what I received the other day and sent out. It was the detailed general ledger report.
I suggest that we put an asterisk and say to be determined when members of the board meet with the comptroller.
Sounds good.
you mean this amount that's
Yeah.
reflected
Yeah.
in the minutes?
Amount to be confirmed with comptroller.
Well, I think the minutes are simply stating that you had this meeting with Mary Lynn Wall, the comptroller, and learned that there was apparently $710.19 in the donation fund at that time.
I'm fine to leave it at that. We're gonna be meeting with
And
her.
then this can be clarified later on as you.
That's fine.
I think the purpose of the whole minutes is just to reflect what was said and done at the last meeting, and if this was in fact said and done, discussed in that sense, whether it's accurate or not is another issue.
So we could reflect in today's meetings perhaps that there is a question that
There's a
needs to be
question.
clarified.
Yeah,
Right,
okay.
exactly.
That sounds good.
Okay, so my adjustment was under new business B, and it was just, this is in changing over from who's taking the minutes, and it will follow the secretary, and I think because Carrie Bailey had been doing it, and then Michael, you had volunteered to do it, and then turned it over to the secretary, and that's changing, so there was it wasn't that, I just want to strike the sentence, like after it says offline period, and strike the phrase that says, because no one on the board wants to be responsible for taking the notes. That was how I recall it going,
It's a
and,
little too frank.
or the spirit of what the
I think
change was.
I did review the video, and I think it was more that we weren't certain yet
Right.
who would.
Yeah.
Because of the change to the change to the change.
Where are you looking at, Mary?
8, old business, I'm sorry, 9, new business, B.
D as in dog?
B is in boy.
B as in boy.
Second to the last sentence there, because no one on the board wants to be responsible for taking the notes. I just wanted to strike that phrase as an adjustment,
And which phrase is that?
because no one on the board wants to be responsible for taking the notes.
I agree with that, because it wasn't stated that.
I
that way
agree with
there
that
was
because-
discussion around it.
Yeah, that's an interpretation.
Okay,
I
we just
would,
leave it like that, after
Okay.
offline period.
after everything off from offline, because no one on the board wants to be responsible for taking the notes.
Yes, now that we repeated that 4 times, yes. Really makes us look like we don't want to. Okay, and then keep the very last sentence in the paragraph.
Okay,
However, Michael will prepare the minutes of the December meeting.
okay. I have a suggestion for an amendment to the minutes as well. I did circulate that to everybody. One of them is with regards to paragraph 8B. I think it should be, and this is, where is it? It should be amended to reflect the fact that the proposed changes to ordinance section 102-34 was actually passed unanimously by the board, and the city forester was invited to email the board with his comments, suggestions, thoughts on the proposal. I don't think that's in there. I would add that in. And then paragraph 9C, there are comments here about, Michael, what you that you noted the various proposed changes to the city ordinance and various other things about it. I don't think that was said. Those comments were in fact made at the last meeting, so I would take them out of the minutes. You're certainly free to make those comments or to email them to the board.
And,
And we in
yeah,
fact invited you to do so.
and I would ask you, Michael, if you would just put those same comment, those seem to be your comments, if you would either state them and we can note them in the minutes today, or email them.
Yeah, it's again, it's not a verbatim transcript of what happens, what everybody says verbatim. That was the feeling. So it was, it's up to the board. It doesn't really matter one way or the other. So,
Well, I would just ask, I mean, we did invite, we would like to hear your comments, so I
Well,
think if you were to state them now, we
We
can.
have them here.
I think there's 2 issues here, though. I think we want to hear your comments, and we invited you to email those comments to us
Right.
as well. But my concern is that the minutes actually accurately reflect what was said and done at the meeting. And I don't believe the comments that are in this paragraph were actually made at the meeting. So
I
you
think
can make
you
them
just
today. You can
note
make-
it in the meeting or in your agenda that these comments were not stated as written, but they were the feelings of Mike Wolf, and leave them in there as such.
Well, and I would propose, because I believe, Jim, your concern is just making sure that the minutes accurately reflect what was stated in the meeting.
Yes.
So what I would propose, Michael, then is, we do value your input, and we invited your input. So either under that agenda
Right.
item where we revisit today,
Yeah.
if you either state what you wrote, or email it to us, then we can formally register that in the
Yeah.
next meeting minutes. Does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah,
Because I do want your comments registered.
Well, it won't make any difference. So you can just strike it if you'd like. That's fine. The comment about giving an opportunity to email my stuff about the thing, that was given to the paperwork was handed over to the city before I even had a chance to get back to the office, so.
And I would note that, yeah.
So the heck, no, it doesn't matter, just strike it, and you can leave it out as not
We just want the minutes.
totally accurate.
We want the
So
minutes
that's
to
fine.
reflect
So just strike
accurately
it.
what happened. All right, the other comment I would make, or the addition I would make to the minutes, is that the forester, Michael, left the meeting before it was over without giving us any reason why you were leaving us last night.
Okay, I would like to remind you that I'm not on the board, so as any other person coming in with comment or whatever, Tommy got up and left a couple weeks ago. He was here, got up and left before the meeting ended. There was no question or mentioning of that in the minutes.
We also had a board member, council liaison come in late, we didn't know.
We didn't note that. If I'm not mistaken, Scott also left early at an earlier meeting. Nothing was mentioned. There's no, I don't see any point in mentioning it. It's a moot point that a non-member of the board wasn't here the whole time.
I don't
I
think it's...
agree.
I'm trying to leave it off.
That's what's,
Yes,
We
I
can
think
just
we
move
should
on.
strike that.
yeah, I feel like it's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
All right, if that is the will of the board, I would disagree with that, because I think your role in consulting with the board and informing the board is critical, and if you leave before we're done with the meeting, then you really put us at a disadvantage. And there were
Okay.
other issues that came up after you left that we would have appreciated you being here in order to address them. So,
Okay, I
I
think
think
we
we
noted that
definitely
now.
appreciate you
But-
being here.
but if the board does not want this in the minutes, then
I don't.
that's the will of the board. Okay, so I guess the proposal is to do the first two things that I discussed and add those to the minutes along with the change that Betsy suggested. And with
And in
the,
mine too.
or,
Yeah, I've got-
with marriage
Yeah, I've
suggested.
got that. Okay.
And so, with
I
the-
move that the minutes be approved with those adjustments.
I second.
all in favor of approving the minutes
I
with
need a
those
second.
adjustments?
Aye,
Wait a second.
We did that.
she did.
She did.
Aye.
So, all in favor? You
Aye.
pass?
Aye.
Okay. The minutes then are approved with the amendment. Treasurer's report. So in the treasurer's reports, do we need to look at the budget performance reports then that were passed out?
Well, I'm gonna suggest two things. One, the question on the agenda, yes, the bill, the 193, was paid. I think that got,
That has been
Michael,
paid.
that was crossed.
It was.
Yeah.
I
You
knew
sent
that
to-
it was,
you
I
sent
just
to-
couldn't.
Yeah, you sent
Leave it
to
out.
us
I had to-
as they were sending, anyway. It was
Okay.
paid on November 21st, and our comptroller noted the check is cleared our bank. So that answers that. And as for the rest of the budget information, we've got, Laura and I have a note out to Mary Lynn to meet with her to go over these in more detail. I don't think we have to take action on the treasury, the budget
We never do,
reports.
it's just
Right.
more information.
And per the bylaws, the comptroller is the one who acts as treasurer for the tree board, so
Right,
no action needed.
I
Okay.
think I did
Yes.
not get the roll call
That's right, that's right.
oh, the roll call, yes.
Yeah. But I should do it anyway. Okay, Jen Birchfield,
Present.
Dennis Britton,
Here.
Dominique Edwards,
Not here.
Betsy Elsesser,
Here,
Laura Henderson, I'm here, James Millowitz,
Here,
Mary Nell Murphy,
I am here.
and Vidya Cora,
not here.
not here. Okay,
So we have a quorum,
we do have a quorum.
which we should have noted earlier, but we do have a quorum.
Just got
Very
it
good.
there.
can I say one more thing about the treasurer report? I did apply for a
Okay.
reimbursement.
Okay,
I brought an invoice, a copy of the minutes,
Good.
and my receipt to the controller's office. The young lady said she would give it to Tamika,
okay,
and that was about 3 weeks ago.
okay. It's been the holidays, so
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry, I'm just saying that.
good to know.
That can be perfect.
I can,
Yeah, good point.
it went through the system. The controller's office is still cleaning up everything from
Last year.
2024.
Okay.
So there's they're in a state of limbo. They really can't post much right at the moment because it messes up the totals for everything. So
Okay,
end of the year, unfortunately, you'll probably get a delay, but it's in the
All right,
system.
I'm accepting that.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the peaceful transition of power here at the tree board. So the nominating committee has nominated for next year, for the officers for 2025, has nominated Jen Birchfield to be president, myself, Jim Melowitz, to serve as vice president, and Mary Nell Murphy to serve as secretary. As I understand it, that constitutes a motion to pass, elect those. Are there any other motions
anyone else wants
Nominations
to write nominations?
from anybody else on the board for officers? Okay, hearing none, I would ask for a second to the nominating committee's motion.
We'll go down to those two.
Second.
Second by Dennis Britton. Okay, so the vote is,
I got a question. Were you saying that the motion, we don't need someone to first approve it, we only have a second?
well,
I think the committee's presentation.
Thank you.
constitutes the motion.
I'm new here.
Motion.
And I can't remember how we did it in the past, but you do, so that's good.
Okay, and then
So, the motion is to accept the slate as presented by the nominating committee.
Correct.
And it has been seconded, so now we vote.
All in favor of the slate from the nominating committee? Aye. All opposed? Congratulations, Jen
Thank you.
and Mary,
and Jim?
and congratulations, Jim,
Yes.
for this peaceful transition of power.
We do appreciate
It's going to be a great year. We have a lot of good things going on.
Yes.
And thank you for agreeing to serve in these roles, by the way.
Yes.
They're very important.
Yes, you as well.
So we do have our honored secretary, longtime secretary, who is stepping aside as secretary. And because she has played such an extraordinary role on the tree board, as well as in other city committees and organizations and such, we wanted to take an opportunity to honor Laura Henderson for all of her hard work and dedication to the city, which is extraordinary. So we have a certificate of appreciation here for Laura, in recognition of her years of service on the Michigan City Tree Board and on the Michigan City Sustainability Commission, her active role as president of the local Potawatomi Audubon Society, her informed efforts for the Shirley Hines Land Trust as a committee member and native plants volunteer, and her tireless devotion to the greening of our beloved city in so many ways. We thank you, signed by the current president, myself, and future president, or new president, I guess, Jen Birchfield. Congratulations. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And, but wait, there's more.
And there's more.
So a couple tokens of our appreciation for you. So I'll start with this map of Indiana with a little heart from Michigan City and a tree
Awesome.
to recognize your tree board work. And we know that you love so much oak trees. So here's an oak green man for you, made by a very talented local potter.
Yes, well, I might be related to
Me, you, come on. Okay, oh yes, and then the pièce de résistance are these socks, because who doesn't need socks? And these say, damn, I love this town. So, thank you for all the work you've done, not just on the tree board, but everywhere else, and I'm gonna call on you for all kinds of information as I start to take over as secretary.
Thank you.
And Laura, you are sort of the epitome of civic service.
Yes.
And what makes a local government work, really. And
That's
your work on the board is so important because you have, such longevity here and memory of the institution and how
Yes.
things work in the city that goes way beyond anybody else here now. And it's really just critical. I mean, I think you're a wonderful example to people who should serve in government and help.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Laura.
All right, we'll see if Mary Nell does as good a job as I.
Boy, big shoes. We will.
Communications, do we have any communications?
I was gonna mention a couple of things. Rachel Stenger, who's with Division of Forestry in Indiana, she's the Urban Forestry Outreach Coordinator, reached out to us and, I'm trying to think which thing that she reached out to us on. I think.
Does she want to buy some trees?
Well,
Was it perhaps related to our Tree City status?
thank you, yeah. So she sent us all the applicants of Tree City, and we have, I think I mentioned last time, we've been approved by the state forester, so we're awaiting the Arbor Day Foundation's approval, which I checked last year, it looks like it came in about March. So, first I was worried that we hadn't received it yet. But she wanted to get information on Arbor Day for Indiana communities, so they could put it on their state site. So I sent her back the information, which, as you all remember, is Saturday, April 26th at the Senior Center. And the Sustainability Commission kind of leads that, and they've got all kinds of environmental activities, nature walks, arts and crafts that are nature related, and they're going to have some electric vehicles for ride and drive. So April 26th. So I gave her that information.
So our two big dates coming up are April 26th at the Senior Center and
Correct.
May 3rd at the Farmers Market, where we will be giving away the remainder of our tree seedlings.
Right. Both of those events will be giving away the tree seedlings. And the second event is May 3rd, which is the first Michigan City Farmers Market.
Right. Okay, well, that's
That's
important.
enough.
Any other communications? Committee reports, public relations, Facebook?
I'll mention, pretty quiet over the holidays, but last time we only had like 110 followers. We have 160.
Yay.
Whoa!
That's a substantial increase though, considering.
It is.
It's a movement.
And so a couple of posts, I did create an event today for the April 26th Earth Day event. I also put something up there on the Indiana Arborist Apprentice Program in general, and also on the Arbor Day poster contest for fifth graders due April Fool's Day. The theme
I saw
being
that, yeah.
Healthy Trees, Healthy Meat. So more information on our Facebook site, or you could Google and go right to that site if anyone is interested. Fifth grade teachers especially, on having kids make Arbor Day posters.
I bet the reason why our numbers have gone up on the Facebook page is because of the TV show that you and I did, Jeff.
Are they South Bend followers?
Well, I'd like to also point out that Michael made
Yes.
a couple of presentations to some community groups. One in Laura's neighborhood and,
And your library presentation as well.
well, that was a while ago.
So all of those things, though, you
And
know,
having a forester on staff and having an active
Yes,
community with it.
Makes a big
any other public relations, press releases, anything of that nature that we've done or need to do?
I think when the Tree City is finalized, we'll want to do a press release. I'm
Yeah.
happy to help with that.
Great.
But we're waiting for that to be finalized.
Probably March.
Education and outreach.
I have some ideas related to Communitree, which I'll discuss later.
Okay, that's later on the agenda, old business. So the forester report. Michael, would you like to talk about the forester report?
I have nothing to add to it. Trying to think even what I put in it, because it was a very short month for me. Let's see, continue work. The hiring process, I'll just touch base real quick on that. That the arborist apprentice, Beta, She will be starting officially Monday.
Great.
Oh, wow.
She was in today. I showed her where her office space is, and she got to meet a lot of the crew, gave her a tour, gave her the key to the women's, or the code to the women's restroom, so that won't be an issue. And gave her the access code to get in the front door. So, yeah, looking forward to her starting. I've got a lot of stuff lined up for us to start working on, basically hitting the ground running. So I'm excited. She's excited, and I think she's gonna fit in very well with the crew. I mean, she was able to take all the stuff that the guys were giving her, and so she did well.
I've had the opportunity to meet her, and I'm also very excited.
Yeah.
Can you remind us again of her full name? I'm so sorry.
Elizabeth,
Munoz.
But she goes like
Munoz,
Bea?
yeah.
Munoz.
Elizabeth, yeah.
The
It's
first
spelled
part-
like Bella, Bella, but it's pronounced Bea.
Okay.
Yeah,
Her name is
Bea.
Elizabeth Munoz.
yeah.
Munoz.
I
We got it
had,
together, we figured it out.
I put it in my phone phonetically, Baya.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And she had previously been working with the Student Conservation
Oh, yeah.
Association, so she does have some
Experience.
exposure,
Yeah.
some experience,
Yeah.
and some understanding of what she's getting into with tree
yeah,
work.
and she's excited. She's not afraid to get her hands dirty. She's excited to
Great,
get some
that's
training.
excellent.
I told her that at some point, probably in the spring, but I'm gonna take her out on the bucket truck and train her on proper function of bucket truck and chipper and equipment, both use and safety. So,
How long will she be with the city?
3 years.
Oh, fantastic. Wonderful.
Yeah, it's a 3-year program.
And I commend you, Michael, for taking advantage of that opportunity, because I think it's a big asset for the city to take
Oh, I
advantage
do
of.
too.
Yeah. And that's full-time.
Yes.
That's great.
I have a question about another item, 2D on your forester report about having reallocated grant funds to
Yeah.
cover the arborist apprentice.
Mhm.
How much money did you reallocate? And
105,000.
do we have to have permission from the feds to do that? Or-
Yes. From the feds, we do.
And you've obtained that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think for some context, the grant budget, I think when it was proposed, it was assumed that the entirety of the work would be contracted
Well,
out.
Yeah, the way this federal grant was written, it was written with projection of what was expected over the next 5-6 years. And it becomes a fluid, has its own life. So as we approach the dates when things start becoming, it becomes obvious that this program's not gonna work, or that's no longer there, or this guy's not there. So it's written into the grant program that as things become either obsolete or unneeded or whatever, or in the case of like Bea, if we need to hire an additional person or add somebody to the administration line, that we can, through a process, move that money. And hence I did.
Yeah.
And then,
And largely, I think we assumed that, or not we, I wasn't here yet. It was assumed we did not have a city forester on staff at that point.
That's
And so
right.
it was written
I
as
wasn't here.
all of the work would be contracted out.
Yeah.
Well, now we have a city forester managing it. And so I think it was something like $200,000 that would have been contracted out that is no longer, that has a little bit more
and I put
flexibility.
her salary on and benefit package in that's what the extra, I'll digress just a little on her. When we initially hired her, or said, yeah, let's get the program going, I presented the numbers, called the controller's office, said, hey, I want to bring in somebody, I need, and they gave me the dollar numbers to throw in my budget. Well, budget came, got passed, went into the system. Then we realized that the controller's office wasn't figuring full-time with benefits, they figured full-time. The standard city employee makes about $21,000 a year in benefits, and that $21,000 for 3 years, that $63,000 was not included. So I was going after other avenues to find funding. I mean, we knew the money was there. We just had, I didn't want to reallocate funds unless I had to. That was Plan C. And we tried the different pockets of money, and they had dried up or wouldn't fit. So in the long run, what we did is I said, okay, we're running out of time. I'm just going to reallocate the funds. Reallocate the funds so that the grant would reflect her benefits in it. And that will show up again in my budget at some point down the road. When, as soon as she's hired, I have to take my budget back in and have that $21,000 a year added back into my budget so that it reflects paying her salary. So that's how that worked out.
All right, great, thank you for
Can I
that.
add a little bit of context to that too, if you don't mind?
Yes,
Okay. It wasn't a large ask, really, because, well, we were very fortunate to have a lot of cooperating agencies working together here. So, the pass-through entity for, where we're getting our funding through the feds was the USDA, which is
Right.
Drew Hart.
Drew,
And Drew is on our team of consultants that from the very beginning have been working on his apprenticeship program. The Indiana Arborist Association secured the funding, applied for the grant and got funded, hired me to coordinate it. We put together a whole team of people and Drew Hart was one of them.
Yep.
So he knew what we were doing and obviously was very cooperative, but it's a different grant. But if you follow the money back far enough, it comes from the same place. It all comes from the IRA. Grant. So it was just essentially, like Mike said, we tried a few different things. We had to work one in Michigan City, but that was a pretty big ask at $63,000.
yeah.
And then once I found out that Drew was the pass-through agency, I was like, well, Drew's on our team here at the apprenticeship.
Right, right.
Why don't we just ask him to reallocate it? It's just, like I said, it's all money that comes from the same source anyway, so.
okay.
It was actually pretty seamless by the time we realized that Drew was gonna be able to make that
Exactly.
decision.
It streamlined it considerably, took a lot of the red tape out of the
So,
mess.
so it's
Okay,
very fortunate.
so she's on board or coming on board very soon?
Monday.
Monday. And then perhaps she could attend the next meeting,
She most likely will.
so we can meet her and get to know her and all that.
I'm
Okay.
gonna say thank you, Phil Graff, for filling into context for those of you playing at home.
Yeah. Well, there's just so much more of the story that I want to.
Sure, I'm sure,
He's
yeah.
sort of an
Just so people
adjunct
who know who
board
you
member.
are, yeah.
Another question about the report. You said states that the city street tree inventories are completed and the parks were started on January 2nd. Can you give us a little bit better feel for that? Or
Yeah, I
Phil?
will note we have later on the agenda an update on the IRA grant and progress of the inventory, but I would welcome you to state that now.
Sure,
If
yeah,
that's okay,
we,
that
we're pretty much right on schedule. We did finish the street trees, actually finished them early.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think we were done with the street trees around December 15th. So we jumped over to the next phase, which was the city-owned properties. And we wrapped those up right before Christmas, I think on the 23rd. And then I reached out to Mike and told him to, asked him if he could get in touch with the park superintendent so we could start after break. We were off between Christmas and New Year's. And then we started the parks on the 2nd.
Good.
So we're working our way through that and it's just narrowing it down more and more. So what's left after the parks, which that'll take a couple weeks, but then we've got the 2 cemeteries and 2 golf courses.
Yeah.
And then the data collection, tree inventory will be complete.
So when do you anticipate all of this being wrapped up?
For the tree inventory portion of it, I would say I'd like to see it by February 1st. That's We've been very, very fortunate with the weather, because the week
Yeah,
we're off,
yeah.
Maybe running out.
but eventually we're gonna get hit with something that's gonna set us back.
Right.
So realistically, maybe the first, second week in February, and then we'll start working on the urban forestry management plan, or as it was called in the grant, the urban forestry mitigation plan.
Right.
We'll get to work on that, and then also there'll be, you guys are gonna get a lot of reporting from us. You're gonna get a lot of executive summaries, tree inventory report, all kinds of great statistical analysis of what we found.
And this will serve as the basis then for where to plant the new trees that we're going to be planting.
Part of what we're collecting also is not just the trees, but where there aren't trees, but there's appropriate planting spaces.
Yeah.
When do we anticipate the tree plantings to begin?
That's.
I would say typically, Michael, I think if we maintain on the same schedule, I'm speaking as, NERC orders trees
Right.
and distributes them as well. We typically procure trees and have them delivered sometime in April. I think if the plan is to work with the Student Conservation Association to plant those trees. And so Michael has secured a location to have those trees delivered and to have them kind of stockpiled, to have them stored and watered and maintained by the Student Conservation Association, who will then start planting them.
Okay.
So I would say typically, I don't know the exact date of when the Student Conservation Association crew begins their work, but typically I think they'd like to be up and running by May. And then they'll be planting, typically planting between April and June. April and June,
Yeah.
and then focusing on watering for the summer months, because you don't tend to plant during those months,
Yeah.
and
It
then,
won't take them long to plant.
right, and then starting up planting again in the fall, so typically,
Right.
what do we do, Phil, start planting in September, October, and go?
Has it been determined what trees we are going to be getting?
No,
No,
That depends
That
on the
depends.
outcome of the inventory, I presume. Okay.
partially,
Partially,
but
yeah.
yeah.
and I think next steps, Michael, we've met, with SCA and with Forest Service, and so next steps are just to get through that request for quotation so that we can procure the nursery stock for the city.
And if you could sometime early next week, if you get up with me, because I haven't prepared that yet, and I want that,
Okay,
I need to get that out.
Yeah.
I want Bea involved in that also,
Okay,
so
yeah.
I would like the three of us to work on that.
yes.
Okay, great. We'll come back to the IRA grant process if there's anything new in that. But with regards to the forestry report, is there anything else you want to add, Michael, or are there any other questions about the forestry report?
No, I can get just a report.
Okay. Moving on then to the next item, old business, proposals to amend city ordinances. My question is, would you be able to send us a copy of the finalized version of section 10241, which is the ordinance that creates the permitting process for removal of trees? I think we asked for this at the last meeting, and I did
Just,
see
you just want the copy of the approved.
the final version of whatever was approved by the council that's now law.
Is it online now yet,
Yeah.
or not yet?
I didn't see
It should
it.
be online.
When I looked
It's not.
a couple weeks ago, I did not see it online. So that's why I'm asking for it.
241 copy. I'll get it. Oh, I should give you guys a heads up too. There is a new, you guys have a mailbox in City Hall. If you go into the office,
Clerk's office?
thank you. I wanted to give you the ladies' names, I couldn't think of her office. The clerk's office, there's, as you walk in the door to your right, there's several mailboxes. And the mailbox is on the left side, about fourth one down. So
Do you happen to know if there's anything in there?
there is not.
Okay, good.
I had,
Read your old request.
yeah, no. I just had them put that mailbox in.
Oh,
So what sort of things would be put in there?
Anything that, if something is mailed in to the city hall, they'll put it in there.
So it's one mailbox for the tree board.
Yeah.
Well, we should have, so who should be designated as the person to check that box?
Why am I guessing it's the secretary?
I think the vice president should do that.
I would
Thank
be
you,
willing
Betsy.
to check it periodically. What frequency do we think that we should be checking that?
They'll most likely notify you that
Oh, that would
something
be
is
great.
Okay,
going on.
that would be fantastic.
It's very,
Notify
you know,
us.
Well, if you happen to be in City Hall once a month,
I can do it at least once a month, yeah.
swing by and,
And I can do it once a month when I'm at a meeting, and I would say any of us, if we happen to be in City Hall,
Yeah.
Very true.
Right,
check
just
it, but-
send in a check.
And I will say that's the address I gave for the Arbor Day Foundation. And when they send us, each year the flag and some tchotchkes, I say, tree board at City Hall, so
Right.
now it's,
Yeah, I had
now it's
that
got a
put in
real,
because my old address was City Hall address.
yeah, and you've
I've
moved.
talked to a lot of people, so I know that it's in their system to send stuff there.
okay.
Okay, very good.
okay, so we'll get section 10241, if you can email that to us, Michael, then Mary may want to post that on the Facebook page
Okay.
as well,
Okay.
which we talked about last meeting, so that we can inform the public of what's going on with that ordinance, that important ordinance. The IRA grant process and progress and inventory, is there anything else that we need to discuss?
I would like to ask still under proposals to amend city ordinances, can we have an update on the other ordinance? I don't have the number of it in front of me, but the one that we voted on last.
There's nothing really to a report. I'm waiting to hear from the mayor's office about what they want to talk about with regard to it.
Okay.
I believe that's dead.
Well, how do you know that?
I've talked with the mayor.
Okay,
Which is this?
and what does the mayor say?
Just that the city is not going to proceed with that at this time.
You're talking about the ordinance that was the other one regarding the duties of the tree board.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's staying as is until, for the present moment.
So it sounds as though the mayor's staff has reached out to you to meet, to discuss it, is that correct?
There's been, I've been told by the mayor's aide that she will be in touch with me to discuss it.
Okay, so yeah, I think just going forward from that, it sounds as though we'll need to communicate, what the issues are, if any, and kind of report that back to the tree board so that we can all just reconsider whatever issues there were.
That's exactly my plan.
Yep,
Because even if well, there's still things that need to be done in the ordinance with regards to who generates and how the urban forestry plan is put together and approved and the timetable for that, which the current ordinance is not workable with regards to that, and that needs to be amended at the very least.
Yeah.
And so,
I think we're all in agreement
Regardless
that
of-
it needs to be
Right.
changed.
where the whole thing goes, and if it goes nowhere, then, I want to just point out, Michael, for one point here, I think that you had the impression from the ordinance that somehow it changed your role relative to the tree board and somehow made us your employer. We're not. The ordinance merely clarifies that the tree board is here to consider tree-related issues and to deliberate about those and to give recommendations, whatever those happen to be, and communicate through you about city policies regarding tree issues. And that's what we're hoping to do. I think that's what our historical role has been. So I
And
guess we may have further discussion about this in the future if there's any interest in the administration of pursuing anything further.
And I would just state, I think we're all in agreement that that ordinance does need to be updated. Michael, I think you were the first to propose it.
Exactly.
And I think perhaps it just needs a little more consideration from all of us than we initially gave it, and a little more conversation and consultation with the mayor's office as well. To clarify, what are the roles and responsibilities. So I think it's something that, depending on what feedback you get, Jim, communicate that to us, and we'll go from there at the next meeting
Sure.
to continue considering it.
We don't want you to work for us, Michael. I don't want to be anybody's boss, okay? So you know that. But we do want to have an open flow of information here, and we want to exercise our duty to weigh in on various tree-related issues and give whatever guidance we can to the extent that we can. And that's the purpose of the board, which, you know. In any case, okay, that's that for the ordinance issue. We're up to the IRA grant progress and inventory. Is there anything we need to add about that? Or have we discussed the things we need to?
I think just on the grant progress, I think I've kind of volunteered to be a bit of a liaison. Michael and I have set up standing monthly meetings with the Student Conservation Association.
Great.
Because a lot of the work, you know, they'll be planting a lot of the trees. So just keeping moving on, you know, those tasks relating to getting the trees ordered and planted.
Right. And that work, I'm sorry.
Oh, one question, are they relying on us to come up with some additional volunteers?
You know, I wouldn't say that they're relying on us to come up with additional volunteers. I think it will be very collaborative. So what is written in the grant is, and what is being contracted with SCA right now, is that they are willing to do a certain number of community tree plantings, events that are referenced in the grant. And so they will be coordinating those events, but they don't necessarily have the local contacts that we do. So I think it will be, I think one of the roles of the tree board will be to help publicize those events. Michael has set up a system to track volunteers. So I don't think it's that we're obligated to come up with a certain number of volunteers or we won't be required to organize the tree planting days.
Okay.
They will handle that, but with assistance from us. In terms of outreach.
Yeah, my concern is, other than the people who are here, we haven't been very successful at getting that many volunteers.
Yeah, and I think once we have those opportunities of multiple planting days, I think we'll, you know, hit it more and hopefully hit our stride. I think it will hopefully grow some momentum. In the past, working with SCA, they have developed like, you know, a flyer and an Eventbrite page to register for the volunteer planting. So I think it will just be on us to help share that through the Facebook page and through, you know, I can share that through the school system. So we'll just do our best to help them get volunteers out, and usually once you start, I think it gains some momentum. And Michael can continue to help track those volunteers so that we can try to get them to repeat. I think also there will be some public events that I would like to have associated with presenting the results of the inventory and also gathering input from residents of, hey, this is what we're planning. How do you feel about it? You know, where do you think we should prioritize planting trees in the city? Because we're developing a plan. We want, you know, citizen input.
Great idea.
Great idea.
But I don't think it's a heavy lift to where we're going to be required to. There's some mention of like going door to door. I don't think there's requirements of that nature.
This might be a little off topic now, but I have worked with some SCA volunteers in various places in Chicago, most recently at the Big Marsh Park, which is on the southeast side, and Drew was there, and some people from SCA were there, and I told them that how excited we were to work with them. And I asked them if they needed any kind of what kind of support they might need from us. And it's not like, should we give them snacks and things like that? And they weren't very specific, but I said one of the things that we've done in the past is we put little tags on the trees or door hanger things on how to take care of trees. And they said they didn't really they weren't in the habit of doing that.
Okay.
So for starters, that might be something that the tree board can contribute to all those tree planting events.
Yeah, and I think also, Michael, I think we've kind of agreed that you have a substantial budget in the grant for educational materials related to the grant.
Yeah.
So we've had some discussions. I think there are requirements in the grant that educational signage be posted, or not education, but signage be posted. So, we're working I think the tree board can work with Michael to develop that, and then Michael then has the budget to procure that.
And there's some
through the grant.
language in the grant specifically what languages have to be
Yeah.
on there and
It has
how
to be
it needs to be
bilingual.
presented. So, yeah, it'll need a little coordination. But we do have money in the grant for that.
And I had previously sent some templates of, or presented here, some templates of signage that had been previously developed for NERC's program, just for consideration that would be pretty easy for us to modify that, have Michael send it to the printer.
Right.
So, that's all in the works. It might be another thing where you'll need to do a request for quotation if it's over a certain amount for the printing. But yeah, there is a substantial budget for outreach materials, so that could be, I think we have to do some signs. But there's, also some flexibility in terms of if we want to do, like you said, door hangers or,
Right. Now,
pamphlets.
keep in mind, I don't think you can do door hanger in the city.
Oh, you can't, okay.
Oh,
It's
Okay.
against the
That's good to know.
ordinance.
okay, well,
So door hangers are, I believe they're out, but
Okay.
I can verify.
okay,
that.
okay, well, we did hang, they were 4 or 5 inch tags on the trees themselves.
Okay,
And I think they were in English one side and Spanish on the other.
Super.
okay.
So
That's great.
we've done that before.
I'll get with you afterwards and see if maybe I can get the templates of what you did, so we can see if that's something we want to
Sure.
keep doing and repurpose. I think at a minimum, if we, through this process of planning where we're going to plant these trees, if we decide, hey, there's this large parkway where we want to plant a row of trees, then just a matter of those individual homeowners, just something to notify them.
Absolutely.
We're planning to plant in your neighborhood.
Yeah, keep in mind, every one of these 500 trees we plant, we're gonna have to do the 811, mark the ground where we plan to put it, and make sure that all of that gets underground checked prior to us starting.
Yes.
So,
So, thank you for the update on that. Leading into the next topic here of Community, the grant program whereby we get some trees to plant. We did not do that in 2024. There was there was no funding available that year.
Yeah.
I guess I'm wondering, are we going to apply for this? Do we want to apply for this year in light of everything that's going on with the IRA grant? Do we need to do this? I mean, it sounds maybe like
I would
overkill, but
I would like to apply, and I'd like to have a couple of ideas, but I'd like to resurrect my old idea of planting trees at schools. Because right now, I don't think that's part of the inventory or the grant. And we wouldn't just show up at a schoolyard, but
Unless we want to get arrested.
I could try to write a letter to the principals and find out who's interested. And we would probably need to have volunteers.
so is the IRA grant not providing for trees on school properties? That's outside the scope of the IRA?
That's correct, but you can plant on the parkways around schools.
yeah,
Okay.
Parkway we can't.
I've done that before. Usually the front of the school, they don't want trees because the school buses come pick them up, but on the sides.
But typically the schools have lots of property around the buildings, and I think that's a great idea, Betsy, because I could see it where we'd be hitting a spot that the grant is not hitting, and also it would be easier to pull off because we wouldn't be running all over town, planting a tree here, planting a tree there, with all of the logistical issues that go with that. Instead, we would be focused on maybe 1 or 2 locations to put all of the trees that we get in. At least that's
Well, in addition to that, not only would they want the tree, I would ask them to choose a location for a tree or two.
Sure.
And maybe come up with at least a couple of volunteers to help out. If the students want to be involved, that's another possibility, but I just would like to start some outreach to places like that have been overlooked for a long time.
I hold in my hand the community application that's due, the deadline is Friday, February 7th. So, it gives us a couple weeks. But I don't know if we're gonna know the trees, the amount, and so on, but
Betsy, would you feel okay with putting together the application?
I'd be happy to do the application.
I think it's a great idea.
Just don't make me do
Because I've had
things.
experience with planting
What?
trees through Kibbe in Indianapolis, Keep Indianapolis Beautiful at schools. And I think it works out really well as a project because you could, if you coordinate with the school, you get, some of the teachers and the students coming out to participate in the planting. A lot of these kids have never held a shovel in their hands. They have no idea how to dig a hole. So it's a really good experience.
So it would be education and outreach.
Absolutely.
Well, I have also planted trees at public schools in the Chicago area. And I don't anticipate that even half of the schools would be interested. We would also need to be flexible on what day. We might not be doing this all one day on a
yeah, the pickup is,
Saturday like we used to do.
We might be doing it during the week, during the school week.
Right.
the pickup is Thursday, April 10th at Portage at the NERC office.
Yes.
If only we had someone who worked here.
And I will say, I'll keep my remarks kind of brief and limited because I want to avoid any kind of conflict of interest. I will recuse myself from reviewing this application when it comes through. But I will say, yeah, I've done tree plantings with Cool Spring Elementary through the community tree program, and it was very well received by the staff and the teachers. Like you said, a lot of these kids had never used a shovel and just had a great time. I think it's a great concept. I think it's a great idea, and I would just say from the community NERC program perspective, what the reviewers will be looking for, the more detail that you have on a planting plan, the better. So if you have some level of buy-on and commitment from any or all of the schools, we can, the community tree program, they will come out and do site visits. If they're not sure where they want the tree, but they want a tree, if they're not sure what species they want, that's okay. But I would just say the more detail that you have, the better. The reviewers don't tend to like to see, we just want 20 trees and we're not sure where we're going to put them. But if you have a sound plan for where you're going to put them and also how they'll be maintained, whether that's with the students, and really the critical months for maintenance will be over the summer. So there does need to be a volunteer.
Yeah.
Well, given that the deadline is 2 weeks from now, it might be difficult to make arrangements with a school, a particular
Well,
school.
then I would have to start right away, and maybe you could help me identify which schools might be interested.
Absolutely, and I think I have contacts in some of the schools that my kids have attended or are attending. So I'd be happy to reach out to them.
And I would say we don't have to hit every school our first
right,
year.
I think we should
Like it could
do
roll through.
a limited number of
couple
trees, say 20
pilot-
trees.
pilot
A
program.
doable number, no
Yes.
more than 20. But
Yeah.
20 is still a lot of trees to plant one day.
Well, it won't have to be one day, because they might choose a weekday.
Okay, right, yeah. But in my experience, what made it work was contacting the principal, and if you find
Yes.
an accommodating, interested principal, you say, look, your school grounds are a desert. I can bring you 23 trees,
Oh, no, it won't be 20 trees in one location.
however many trees.
Yeah.
And all you have to do, Mr. Principal, is give me some volunteers to show up and help us put these
Yeah.
trees in the ground on that particular day.
I will volunteer to reach out to Joy Elementary
Thank you.
principal, because my son goes there.
There you go. And your son can be planting.
Yes, he loves planting trees. He can teach everyone.
Do you think we should aim for the elementary schools more than the high schools?
I think
Or private
elementary
schools?
schools certainly. I think that Barker School is the other school that I have a child at, and they have a lot of trees there.
Okay, skip.
So I think they're going to cheat out. I don't know about Lake Hills. I know that they do have some environmentally focused programs, but I'm not sure if they need trees. I think it could be great for the high school too. They have a environmental science program. So I would say cast a wide net, and we could try to approach them
Sure.
and just see who the takers are. But I do think the sweet spot for planting trees sometimes is kind of the 3rd to 5th grade, where they're really kind of right for the information.
So we would be looking to put you would be looking to put this application, getting this application out in a couple of weeks. Do
4
we-
weeks, yeah.
4 weeks, so we would not have an opportunity to talk, well, we might have an opportunity to talk about it at the next meeting before you.
Well, I will send out some email to all of you if I
Okay.
make some progress, but my thought would be to make a list of the schools and find out who the principals are, contact the principals and ask them if they're interested.
Only need
I-
1 or 2 schools.
I will volunteer to reach out to Springfield Elementary.
Okay,
My daughter used to go there. Cool Spring Elementary has already done tree planting, and so I wonder if they'd have the capacity to maintain more. So I'll just say that, but I do have a contact with the principal at Cool Spring.
all right, well, let's talk about this after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we need a motion, but I'm gonna go on and move that the board supports Betsy and Jen taking this offline to further discuss and submit an application if possible.
I will do
5%.
the application since Jen would have a
Yeah,
conflict of
I'll state
interest.
for the record again that
Oh,
I'm happy to help with some of that
I
outreach.
amend my
but I
motion
will-
that
I will
Betsy
not be-
will submit this.
So,
It's an online application,
But-
right?
It is, and here's the info on it where you
It's
can.
very simple.
I
who did the
did,
application last year?
I did email this to you.
Do we know?
but
Yes, I got all of it.
Jen, do you know who did the application last year?
I don't know.
What I'm wondering is if anybody has it.
Might have been
We didn't
Tim.
do one last year.
Oh, no, the year before.
Might have been
that's
Tim.
right.
It might have been Tim.
I think it was Tim.
So if anybody can find the application from 2 years ago and then get it to you, Betsy, so you'll have a template for what we put together last
I do
time,
have that. I should have access to that.
that may save her a lot of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Well, is it
that's-
all that complicated?
It's not.
It's not,
It's
but-
like a 2-pager.
It always helps.
All right,
have that.
okay,
Moving on.
Great.
Oh, I would like to make one recommendation for the board to put together some kind of a tracking method, if you will, of all the people, name, address, phone number, and email of everybody that we would be giving a tree to. That way, we've got a list of, that can be tracked. And it also, each one of those families who we get a free tree might be a good one that we could email information to about being a volunteer at some point.
The community trees or the seedlings?
All the above.
Oh,
Anytime
the
that,
seedlings is kind of, well, you were there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of a madhouse. I don't
Yeah.
think we're gonna get, I mean, it's like, how fast can we get the trees out? I don't think we're
But
gonna
we could
collect.
have, we
names and
could
addresses.
collect some
Okay.
volunteer information.
Just have a sign-up sheet.
We could try to.
maybe a sign sheet. Well, I don't know the method. I'm just recommending.
We're not gonna get 500 people to give us that information.
Correct.
A way of getting the information.
Okay,
We'll work on it.
Yeah, and I think really at all events that we do, we should have some sort of a volunteer sign-up.
And you put together a form for us to use for that
Yes.
purpose, didn't you, Wayne?
I downloaded that.
Okay.
One more question about community tree. So if we want to focus on schoolyards, should we skip trying to recruit homeowners again, like we used to do at the farmer's market? Because it sounds like there's an overlap there with,
I don't think it ever hurts to recruit people who might want a tree and put them on a list somewhere, whether they get a tree this year or whether they get a tree
well,
through
we don't
another
really have
program.
a means to do that outside of Facebook.
Well, this application is for the spring. Is there going to be another
There will be
community
a fall round,
in the
yes.
fall?
So I do think it's a good idea to continue to build that list constantly.
And definitely anytime that the tree board would be planting or helping plant a tree on somebody's property, we need to get a signed consent form from the property owner and, make sure we're staying like we should.
And I think also, Michael, through the IRA grant, those trees are to be planted on public property, but that can be in the right-of-way in front of someone's home. So
Right.
if someone is interested, we may have a mechanism.
Right.
Well,
So,
Depending.
but that's what I said, we need to, if we're, in any of the programs, if we're going to help somebody plant a tree on their property, we need to get signed authorization. And I think that anybody that we give a tree to we should have their name, address, phone number.
Yes.
I agree.
And
Does that
they have
apply to
a
the
phone number and
schoolyards?
email.
No.
Does that apply to the schoolyards?
Well, the
school.
school itself, it would be important, because I want the tree inventory that is being put in. If we plant trees around, I need to put that information into our GIS system. So I need to know exactly where they're going.
Well, that's a requirement of the community tree anyway.
Right, but I would like to know from sapling, if people are getting trees and decide they want to put them on in the alley or whatever. I want to know so that we can either redirect them or make sure we get that information into our system. It's terrible to have a brand new system and not keep
And
it
not
up.
obtain, yeah.
Well, we will work on that.
You'll come around every month, won't you?
All right.
Just to keep it updated, just checking.
All right, so Betsy's gonna
Can
work on the
you
application.
give us send around this signed consent form that you're referring to? Because I don't know that we have anything like that.
Yeah. We have I had created a signed consent form for
I think I've seen it. Yeah.
anybody receiving a tree.
So this is a grant, the community tree grant is for planting in the spring that we're talking about
Spring or
here.
fall. There will be another fall round. The current round is for spring.
Well, if we're talking about schools, I would like to do this before the end of the school year.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, that's-
And that's
They do
February.
sometimes like to do an Earth Day event. We tried to schedule the distribution before Earth Day.
Do you
so
think
that-
we can realistically make this happen before the spring?
I would pick off a couple of schools, for this. maybe
hey, I got a
solve it
shovel,
quickly.
planted myself. if I
Okay,
had
so-
to.
I think Betsy, if you're willing to take the lead putting it together.
Yes, I am.
large, And, we can keep it a little flexible. If it turns out that there isn't interest and we can't pull it together, then we could move it to fall.
Bump it to the fall, right, okay.
So I had a motion for board support for Betsy to complete the
Second.
community tree.
I'll second that motion, all in favor? Aye. Good. All opposed? None here heard, so Betsy, you're it. Congratulations,
Thank you, Betsy.
congratulations on taking that responsibility on. Next item, invoices, office supplies, is there anything we need to discuss about that?
Well, like I said, I put in a request.
Yeah, we covered that.
Waiting to hear.
Okay, I think we covered that. New business, DNR outreach, contact Madeline Goulian.
Yeah, she reached out to us saying that she's available for outreach, so that's a name to keep in mind as we go down the line with planting and.
Okay,
What would she be doing? You mean making an appearance at a,
I think helping us plan that. So I think we need to reach out to her. She's offered to help with community outreach.
I think to
Okay.
advise us and help us on
Just a
community
resource.
outreach. She's their outreach.
well, the thing that I feel that we need the most help with is finding volunteers. So if she has ideas about that, or we could use a few extra volunteers at the Arbor Day event when we're passing out the seedlings, because that's a long, difficult day. Not sure that we need anybody volunteering at the farmer's market, but, and volunteers,
Couldn't hurt,
when we do get around to planting, volunteers to help with that.
And I will announce somewhat on topic, because we're talking about DNR. There will be a new program starting this spring in conjunction with Community, where homeowners can offer evidence that they have removed an invasive.
Oh, great.
Where they've removed a calorie repair or a tree of heaven.
A tree of heaven?
And
Wow.
if they've removed that, then they can receive a free replacement.
Excellent.
So that'll be done in
Really?
conjunction with Community. Once we get that up and running, DNR is working on a form for that. Once they get that up and running, I'll share it and we can try to get it out through our channels to encourage Michigan City residents to take care of that,
that's
take
great.
advantage of
I
that.
love that. Love that idea.
Replacing an invasive with a native?
With a native.
Great.
All right, Tree of Heaven, your days are numbered. Michigan City. Outreach presentations, green drinks, that's the Save the Dunes.
Yeah,
Deal.
and Betsy, back to you. I think you had contacted or made contact with Nancy.
It sounded like Michael did that simultaneously, and were you going to, I would think that they'd want to hear from from the big guy rather than from me first about our grant and our plans, et cetera.
I've been in contact with Nancy, but I haven't heard, I don't have anything set up yet.
Well, it doesn't sound like she's asking for an in-person presentation, she's asking for an online.
Yeah, and I think you need a
Yeah,
date, like
it's
when, you know, it's not set up, so I think it needs to be scheduled.
Right, I mean, but you were saying, your response to her, I think, was, well, how many people will be in attendance, I'll make materials, but they aren't in attendance, they're on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
It's a Zoom
It's a Zoom
thing. So
meeting.
do we need, so somebody needs to talk to the woman from Save the Dunes to set this up? Is that what I understand?
I believe so,
That's
but
a
it sounds
different
as though
one.
you've both been in contact with
Yeah.
Nancy.
Well, I'm dropping the ball because I'm doing the community.
Yeah,
and,
and well, and Michael, it sounds like you've been in contact with Nancy as well on that?
Yeah, I'll talk to her again.
you know,
We
he's
should
the
also
authority
consider, I
figure.
think, the ideal date of such a presentation, if it would be beneficial, you know, I don't know what's on their
They
slate
have
for the
certain
year.
dates
Yeah,
that
she
they
does
need.
it.
If we can nail down a date, I'm sure we can get people there to do it. Jen, you and I can do our dog and pony show that we did before.
Yeah.
Michael, you could be involved in this too, or do it on your own. I mean, we got plenty of people who could show up for this thing.
She schedules Supreme Drinks for the first Thursday of each month.
It's not a show up thing, it's a Zoom thing.
I understand, but you still have to show up for Zoom, right?
All right, well,
So Jim, can you coordinate what first Thursdays will work for the group to, and then so you can say to Nancy, here are the dates?
I'm sorry.
Since you're stepping down as president, I'm gonna ask if you would take this task of coordinating with Nancy for both Save the Dunes and Green Drinks, on which first Thursdays of the month.
Do they want us?
Right.
Or, I don't know, if
Yeah, sure, I'll do
if
it.
Michael is gonna do it, does it make sense for Michael to arrange it? Or-
well, yeah, actually, it does, because what I think
I
they
wasn't
need
sure
to
he was okay
hear
with
from,
I don't know.
you know, about the new ordinance, about the progress of the grant, about the existence of the grant, and we would just be, you know, rehashing the same information.
All right,
They
so we-
really should get it from the top.
We just need to find out, do they want us?
To a number of states. We have about often 200 people, so it really needs to be more on a topic than on, we can mention what's happening locally, but it really needs to be sort of a topic
Well, I thought
that
Nancy had
affects the
said that she was
regional
very
area.
interested in having
Is Nancy the leader of Save
Well,
the?
for Green Drinks,
She's
yeah.
on the city
And-
council as well.
Yeah, oh, is she in
She
charge of this
attended the meeting,
program?
was
with
here
Green
A couple months
Drinks?
ago she
Yeah.
attended.
A couple months ago.
Oh, I thought it was,
Yeah, technically Nancy reached out to me instead of me reaching out to Nancy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's our communication.
And Michael, as you understand, she's interested in hearing about the grant for Michigan City at the Green Drinks
Yeah,
presentation. Yeah,
I've
Yeah.
talked with her, but we're,
Yeah.
Do they want
Well,
to?
it's just a matter of
And I
meeting everything.
will say, Michael, you know, that's after, it sounds like if she reached out to you rather than vice versa, I'm perfectly willing to present with
Whatever.
you or with anyone else. And it sounds as though, Dennis, that it sounds as though the nature of it is there should be some more broad, the benefits of trees.
we can always find, you could put people together to do the presentation. Who wants to contact Nancy to talk, get a date on this? That's the question. Michael, do you want to do that, or should I do that?
Go ahead and do that.
Meeting.
All right.
So
I will do that, and Nancy is the contact. We'll nail down some dates, and then we'll come back to,
Do you
I'll
have
circulate.
Nancy's information?
It's advertised on Facebook.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it to me. I think I have it, but I don't know where it is. Okay, comments. Moving on.
You could be.
Board member comments. Any further comments?
Yeah.
yeah. I was just gonna mention, and I'm looking at Betsy and Dennis here. I will be away all of February, so I won't be taking, now that I've agreed to be secretary, I will not be taking the minutes at the next
So
meeting.
that's a fine.
How do you do? So I need someone to take minutes at the February meeting. Any volunteers?
I could do that,
Oh, well,
unless, but yes.
Thank you, thank you.
Postman's
You were
holiday
you were kind of like secretary emeritus.
there. Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
I would rather not do it for February because I'm doing this application.
She's already agreed.
Okay.
You're up to hook.
No, thank you.
any comments from board members?
Yeah, I am confused by this volunteer contact information, tree approval, planting, and property access form. And what confuses me is down in the notes, it says, by supplying information and signing the tree approval signature form, I agree to allow access to my property listed under site address, where access is given for installation and or removal of trees for a forestry grant. It's not clear to me whether or not if I volunteer to plant trees and sign that form, that just by volunteering to plant trees, not necessarily on my property, I am allowing the city to come onto my property. It confuses me.
I wonder if that could just be, I see your concern.
Yeah.
And I see, Michael, that you're trying to do multiple things with one form. I wonder if it could be a situation where there's an asterisk or a foot, so
Yeah.
that it's clear that
Yeah.
these only apply if you would like to have a tree planted in your yard.
Or a box to check,
Yeah, just
check a box.
Yeah.
write
Like
up what
these
you
don't,
want and,
these notes don't apply to you if you're just signing up to volunteer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But they do if you're
it's a
requesting.
generic kind of broad
Yeah.
stroke form.
Yeah.
So it can be used in a lot of scenarios.
Well, my concern is that some people might want to give some of that information, but not all of that information.
Yeah, I would look at this, if I wanted to volunteer to plant trees, I would look at this and say, I don't think so.
That's a good suggestion.
So
Okay.
which ones are required if they're volunteering to plant trees, not necessarily on their own property? Their name and either phone or email, either one of those for
You
contact?
probably want both.
Well, some people don't. Well, what if they don't give them?
Sometimes they don't.
Or they don't have an email? I know.
Well, then they don't. Then we get what we can.
Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if, Michael,
Are you okay with?
I wonder if that could be a very simple modification to
How you want
clarify
to
it.
change?
It sounds like it.
Sure. Give me that.
You know, I'm interested in volunteering trees, here's this
I'll put it in
info.
the
Right.
minutes.
I'm also interested in having a tree planted, here's the additional info that's required for that.
Good suggestions.
That way it keeps.
Okay, members of the public, any comments from members of the public? Mr., could you
My
please
name's-
state your name?
My name's Ian Osborne, live on Walker Street in Michigan City. You know, this spurred some other things for me that maybe I could contribute, but I met Phil on the street when he was doing part of the tree inventory. I am an arborist, 20 years, and a sawyer. I operate a sawmill. I also have done work with the Chief Resource Management Director, Dan Plath, at the National Park Service, on basically, you know, there's two sides to this. So you have the planting of trees, but then obviously there's going to be an inventory of trees that are distressed that are going to have to come out. A lot of these trees are, you know, heritage trees that were planted during the Civil War. You know, I'm often involved in some things trying to help people immortalize these trees that are a community resource on top of just, you know, kind of a historical relic. So, you know, and I could kind of maybe bullet point this and just offer it up outside of this meeting so it doesn't take up a lot of time, but just to kind of skim through it, a lot of these trees that are distressed, if I was involved in, you know, just kind of helping look at some of the list to see what that inventory includes, and I also have my eyes on a lot of different trees in town that are distressed that I know are gonna come out, and it would be a shame to just buck these up and turn them into wood chips and firewood for, you know, for the Hitchcock landfill. We've also pulled some really amazing trees out of the LaPorte County Fairgrounds dump with the help of Barry Nowatzki. You know, you pull up and he'll put a 3-finger, you know, a 200-year-old 3-finger maple on your trailer and you drive away. You know, so not only is this a community resource in terms of, what it is for its historic value, but also, these could be used as materials for things like, say, your signs for the, for the new trees. Some of this timber could be processed and then turned into, your signage or benches in front of them, park benches. They could be used for Habitat for Humanity, for rehabilitating homes. There's like a catalog of uses for a lot of this lumber. But seeing a lot of the distressed stuff and the stuff that's aging stock that's going to come out as a resource would also not only produce materials for things like the Michigan City Youth Arts Scholarship Program, which also I'm an instructor for that. So we do programs with kids to, do art projects, and there's other, Villanova has done this with the kids, and we get money through the Michigan City Arts Committee and the Lebesnick Center to do classes with kids and show them how to make skateboards or, whatever, benches, teach them woodworking, real life skills. This also pairs really well with, well, like I said, I don't want to be all over the place here, but it'll save the city money to take a lot of these trees down, to process them. And you need some serious equipment for a lot of that. Even just a saw, one saw that I have is like $3,000. The maintenance on these saws, purchasing the saws.
So what do you need from us?
Basically just, if you want to just plug me in, I can help you maximize your resources. And then also, I'm familiar with the municipal process on how to dispose. It's called disposing of municipal property. So, a lot of these trees, you can't just sell them per se, and you can't necessarily give them away, although you could, and they don't go bad. So if we can find a place to just stack some of this stuff, whether it be at Hitchcock or wherever, and arrange something with the forester to how we can kind of allocate some of these logs, particularly the ones that are of historic value, which I can help you to evaluate those.
Well, I think the city, and Michael, you could address this further, but I would assume the city would be overjoyed to work with you in terms of giving away old lumber that it would not have to pay to process.
And
Absolutely.
Mr. Osborne, I'll add, I was in attendance at the Partners in Community Forestry Conference, the national conference in Chicago in November. There were several presentations on programs like this, and I was blown away on their presentation of the programs that they developed. And you're right, we are throwing away a resource. There's money in
Absolutely.
whether it's money or value.
Value, let's go.
There's value in those trees, and I think also from a perspective of, pitching tree planting as a climate solution, that would go somewhere. So,
Right.
so rather than decomposing and becoming a carbon source. So I myself, whatever you guys need, I think there would be a lot of things to probably work out on the city end that I assume you'd probably need to work with Michael, but also communicate with us. But I myself would be very supportive of exploring that.
This can also be a fundraiser for the tree board or for the city, so to help you extend that grant money. So, obviously, like let's just say, for instance, a 58-inch in diameter maple tree that's going to come down. If there's no metal in it, and we evaluate that, and we can, mill that up, just the bottom trunk at 12 feet, we're going to get maybe 8 slabs out of it, and each one of those is worth $1,000 to $1,500. So out of just one trunk that I watched the tree guys, they begged me to take them, but the city doesn't like me to do too much on a residential lot. So I just do as much as, I can assimilate and not cry when they butcher it. But, we're talking about throwing away,
Yeah, thousands.
$15,000 to $20,000.
I'm excited to hear that we do have someone locally, because when I attended that conference, the wheels were turning of, oh, this is great. They do
Right.
even as like job development programs and training people in the crafts, in
Absolutely.
woodworking. And so I'm thrilled to hear that we have someone who has access to some of that equipment here.
I think it's a great idea.
58-inch log? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the max.
Is it mobile?
It's a mobile, it's a portable mill, yeah.
So do you need us to do anything else at this point, or, you're kind of raising our consciousness on this issue, I think, and perhaps you need to talk more detail with Michael about
Absolutely.
how to make these connections and how to make it work.
Yeah.
We've already exchanged business cards.
Well, we can,
Way ahead of the curve. like
perhaps we could just give our endorsement to this idea.
Well, I think there needs to be more discussion. I don't want to get in the way of any inventory or planting work, but I think it's good to continue the conversation with Michael. And I think we would need more details before the board did anything, but I'm very happy that you reached out, and Michael, that you guys have already talked. That's great.
Just to cap that, up just a little bit further, once the tree inventory comes through, then that would be maybe the time to kind of plug me in.
Right.
So that I can just see that
Right.
data, and then I can go around and say, hey, this one on this spot, that's something that we want to preserve.
Right. So
To be
you-
transparent, I'm not doing this for commercial purposes. I'm a retired artist, and I'm mostly at this point I'm just doing consulting and real estate development. So, and I say that because I just want you to know that I'm aware of how the municipality disposes of public property, and I'm not interested in doing this so that I can line my pockets or to gain access to timber, except for the reason that I cry when I see something amazing get chunked, And finally, as a homeowner in Michigan City, to add to your
Some old growth.
community program,
Forest around.
on Walker Street, I'm just down from the community garden, the Eastport, the neighborhood garden there that Dominique Edwards is spearheaded there. I'm on the other end of Walker, just before, right when you come up 8th Street. I own the entire north side of the 200 block, and we have 2 completely clear easements in front, and I've been actively planting trees there for about like the last 6 years, primarily fruit trees, and I wanted to ask, are you offering fruit trees, or are we just doing?
No,
No fruit
simple
trees?
answer is no.
Well, I would say though, so for the community program, so full disclosure, I work for NERC, the administrator of this grant. The NERC community program, they do not do fruit trees, but there are native fruit trees. So persimmon and nut trees,
Plum.
persimmon, plum, wild plum. There are several, hazelnuts, walnut. I had reached out to Dominique in the past to see if they would be interested in applying for trees. And it seemed as though there were some limitations of planting, large trees on that lot. That may have changed.
It's because it's a city park. So
Oh.
that whole property is city-owned park department. So
Okay,
there would be that bureaucracy that you need to go through to
Okay.
coordinate with the Parks Department. If you guys can do any of those, they don't necessarily have to be, high-yield fruit trees, but yeah, anything like, even for pollination would help me because I'm planting natives, but I'm also planting cultivars for fruit production. So the native would help for pollination.
okay.
I can hook you up with the head of the Parks Department.
Yeah, you may want to go straight to the parks people.
Yeah, and I
For
would
the
say,
community garden.
it sounds as though, you might need to get it.
I'm hoping for my block, so count me in when you guys start allocating trees. I'll take a bunch, and then I can also help you to network in the neighborhood. I helped start the Eastport Neighborhood Association, and we know everybody over there. So-
Well, my understanding was that when we start planting trees, that the emphasis will be on shade trees.
Okay,
Not, fruit trees aren't always the best thing to plant on an easement.
right, because they drop fruit, but what's funny is a lot of the ornamentals, they plant the ornamental plums, and they drop fruit too. And it's the same mess. It's smaller.
Well, please be in contact with Michael and stay in the loop on this stuff because it sounds like we can have a mutually beneficial relationship on these issues.
Yeah, and I think it sounds as though the focus this year for the city's community grant will be on school trees, but I will just say that I think there's potential to explore that in the
Absolutely.
future through a number of different programs, depending on the context of the site. I think there are things we need to explore.
Absolutely.
But I think there are programs where, native trees could be made available, including fruit trees. Most of the programs aren't going to do apple trees or, your typical varieties of pear tree, but I think there are some avenues that you could explore.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very good. Our next meeting will be February 5th, 2025 at 5:30 PM at the same location where we are today. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so moved.
Second.
Second? All in favor? The meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See you in February
With a new president.
for the new president.